History is full of rich connections to God and the great outdoors He created for us. I'm on a mission to share these experiences with my children, alongside other fathers who want to introduce their sons and daughters to the beauty and bounty of the world where we are blessed to walk with our Heavenly Father in His garden. My name is Jacob Whitley. This is Fathers and the Great Outdoors. I think that's him right there.
You see him? There he is. Pick him up and smile at the camera, bro.
Welcome to Fathers in the Great Outdoors. If you want to continue to support this content, please check out greatoutdoorspodcast.com, where you'll find some great merch like this hat or a nice little coffee cup. Today we have Jay Proctor. How you doing?
I'm good, bud. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad we were able to finally get this scheduled to do this.
Yes, the anticipation has been building up. I'm glad we finally can get together.
Absolutely. I hope that means you have a lot to talk about.
We can talk about anything you need to, bud.
All right. So just to start off, why don't you tell me how you personally got into the outdoors?
I was lucky enough I've had two dads in my life, and both were outdoorsmen. Anything from trapping to small game hunting to big game hunting and fishing. I've been in the woods since I was 8 or 9 years old. When I was in middle school, I ran 100 trap line. That's how I raised money when I was in school. Most people work on farms or in the back of field, and I ran 50 traps in the morning and 50 traps in the afternoon and sold the fur.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I've been in the woods. Being in the woods kept me away from a lot of trouble in growing up.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. So what was, do you still focus on trapping?
No, I haven't trapped in a while. When I was doing it back when I was young, there wasn't any permits required. Mm-hmm. And now with the permits and the cost of everything and the fur, it's just nobody wants to pay for that stuff anymore. My stepdad had got me introduced to it, and I got lucky. And the guy he was selling to, he saw what I was doing at such a young age. He actually bought me a deep freezer, and he was giving me full price for uncleaned animals as he was all grown-ups that would had to skin theirs before they brought them to him. So I could keep everything in the freezer and take it to him once a week, and he would pay me full price as if it was a completely skinned animal, like, the adults that was doing the same thing. But with the day and time, with the price, and nobody pays for fur hardly anymore. So I just don't. I have like some nuisance trapping, different farmers that I've grown up around. I still do a little beaver. I've done some coyote, but nothing on a regular basis anymore. Yeah.
So when did you transition to, I guess, big game, or do you do fowl hunting as well?
No, that's something I've never really got involved. I've dove hunted some, mainly just on like opening weekend, just all group of us would get together. But other than that, I hadn't really done any fowl hunting. Just like I said, again, just with my dads, it's always been in the woods doing something. If it won't coon hunting at night, it was deer hunting during deer season or rabbit and squirrel hunting. It was just all about being in the woods. Like I said, it's just enjoying God's creation is what we've always said.
Yeah. So it's more of a natural transition out of the trapping to the I guess, gun. Well, do you bow hunt as well?
I do. Yes, sir, I do.
Which one do you prefer?
Preferably, I love it's just something different about bow hunting, being able to I don't know if you want to call it a game, but I would say you play the game in order to get the animal close enough to you, mm-hmm. to feel like you're outsmarting some of the smartest creatures there are. In other words, but I mean, I do a lot of hunting this day and time to provide meat for my family. We process all of our own. So, of course, when bow hunting's not going too good, I'll grab a long gun and go sit in a stand somewhere. But I'm a much preferably either my bow or my crossbow in my hand.
Right. I'm sure that as far as like the sport of it goes, that makes sense.
Yes.
Have you ever done anything that requires like long range that you would have to stalk over, I guess, a few days?
No, I haven't. We've done some, as far as, we've camped a couple of days. We used to float down a river every opening weekend and camp out on sandbars and hunt some public land that way when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. But I actually have a daughter who lives out in Colorado that I'm trying to coordinate with to get out there and may get into some of the bigger big game hunting situations where I might have to track out a couple of days. But as of right now in my life, I haven't had that experience.
Right. What about fishing? Is that something you did when you did the camping?
Oh yeah, we fish. We would set up some trout lines or even jugging. I've been jugging since before a lot of people even knew what that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would camp. Like I said, we would always go. Opening day normally fell on a Saturday, so we would all get together that Friday after work. It was about I'm going to say about an 8 or 9 mile float from one bridge to the other. So we would always leave one vehicle at the pickup spot, and we'd all go back and put in the river and float halfway and set up camp, have a little campfire, and get up the next morning. And we have floated, drifted, and hunted, or spread out on the little bit of public land that was there and do some steel hunting. Most of the time, opening day, you had deer clubs that had dogs running on both sides of the river. So, a lot of times the dogs would push deer right up to you, but it was always a tradition for many, many years. And then some of the clubs around there, they didn't like the situation. There wasn't a whole lot they could do with it, but they started getting a little aggressive with us. We had some vehicles that were damaged. So we just we grew up, and some people moved away and started doing our own family thing. So we just hadn't done that much anymore. Before I lost my dad, me, him, and my 2 sons, we would still go on week camping trips during Thanksgiving. I always try to take a week off vacation right around Thanksgiving. And whatever piece of land we had property to hunt on, we would always take a week camping trip. But again, it was just regular whitetail hunting. It wasn't a lot of long range stuff. But
right.
But I lost my dad a year ago. We were actually on a fishing trip when I lost him. So I haven't done that in the last couple of years. But it's something I'd like to get back into with my 2 sons.
Was he with you on that trip, or he just happened to pass while you were on the trip?
No, he was with me. It was just me and him. He actually got finned by a fish and contracted a flesh-eating bacteria, and it took him away from me.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. That's tough.
Yeah, it was rough. It was just me and him. Kind of an annual trip we would go on a lot. And but like I said, it was rough at first, but everybody told me he was doing what he wanted to do. And I've got pictures of the night it happened. We had actually caught a 50-some pound red drum. So one of the last pictures I have of him, he's standing beside me smiling when we caught that fish.
Yeah.
So that was on a Thursday night. I took him to the emergency room that Friday morning, and he never come home.
How long was he there for?
I had him at the emergency room at 8:00 Friday morning. This was in Morehead City, and they transferred him to Greenville, Pitt County Hospital at 5:00 Saturday afternoon. At 5:15, they pronounced him.
It seems quick.
Yeah, it was real quick. It was his hand swelled up real bad, and it just ran up his hand. They were going to amputate his arm, but when they started the operation, they turned around and told us that it wasn't nothing they could do for him. It had spread so bad it had gotten into his chest already.
What kind of was that related to the specific fish, or it just happened to have something on it.
Just happen to have on it. It's if I pronounce it right, it's called Fibriosa. It's a bacteria that's in salt brackish water. We've had such mild winters in this area for the last several years that was just a little stronger than others. We have found out since then that there's been other cases, but it's just what happened.
Yeah, I guess that brings into question I've heard concerns about like even swimming in brackish water, but I guess that's an example of why you should be concerned.
Yep. But we've heard of incidences where guys get scratched by crab pots that do crabbing for a living that has contracted this virus and lost legs and stuff like that from it. I guess my dad's age, and he'd had heart conditions. His immune system just couldn't keep it contained right to his arm. It spread everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really sorry, man.
I appreciate
it. So was that kind of the location you grew up going to?
Yeah, in the Outer Banks of North Carolina is kind of where I grew up taking our annual trips. We did a lot of pan fishing in different creeks and rivers, but we would always go either to Atlantic Beach several times a year, or we'd go to Nags Head a couple times a year. That was just a thing that me and him done, gosh, as long as I can remember. And now since he's gone, hunting and fishing is where I feel most connected to him. I feel his presence anytime I'm doing something like that now.
I imagine. Yeah. I usually ask this question later, but this seems like an appropriate time. Where do you see God in the great outdoors?
Well, I'm a firm believer that God's the great creator. Everything outdoors is his. I say it's his painting. You've heard the songs about everything black and white and someone being the painter with the brush. And to me, that's God. He's everywhere around you. Every time I sit in a boat seat or a deer stand, the first thing I do is just close my eyes and say a prayer. I'm a firm believer in asking for forgiveness, because sometimes you do things not knowing what you're doing. So I'm always a firm believer in asking for forgiveness. And then I'm always thanking him for his creation, for allowing me to enjoy and participate in his creation. And then, as always, after the fact, if I am able to harvest an animal, of course, I say a blessing to thank you for allowing the sacrifice to provide for my family. To me, without God, none of it would be possible to begin with.
Is that a process and mindset that you shared with your dad?
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. I'm sure that was a great way to connect, in addition just to being out there.
Yep.
So when, take me through the process of how you introduced your kids to the great outdoors.
Oh, gracious. I couldn't wait until my kids were old enough. My youngest son, when I first got him introduced into hunting, having somewhere to go was hard. It was a struggle. Financially, I wasn't able to join any clubs. Mm-hmm. I wasn't able to have my own leases anywhere. So basically, I was just going where I was invited. He actually fell in love with it so much. During hunting season, I tell everybody, he was like a fireman. He would come home from school. He would put his hunting clothes on. Well, in the morning when he'd get up from bed, the first thing he'd do is put his hunting clothes on. Then he'd pull his pants down over his boots, and his outfit would be sitting by the door like he was a fireman. As soon as he got home from school, he'd jump right back in those hunting clothes. And when I got home, is Daddy, we're going hunting today. And it was just an anticipation for him. So it was rough for a while, having to tell him, no, son, I'm not going today. Or even when I did go, if it was no, son, I have an invite. I don't have permission to bring someone else. Then I started talking to people and say, hey, if I come, I'm bringing my son with me. And then we struggled for a couple of years for him to be able to get his first animal. I actually paid a guy. I met a guy online, and he was a guide, and he only charged me $100, but he gave me a piece of property to hunt as long as I needed to until he was able to harvest his first deer. And so we did that pretty quick, and he's been hooked ever since. And I've got a little 5-year-old granddaughter that he's starting to introduce. And then my youngest son, he's 19 now. He loves it just as much as anything. He didn't get to go as much this year. He's a freshman in college, and he's on the golf team. So he didn't get to do as much as he likes. But again, any chance we get, we're in the woods doing something.
Yeah. What about fishing?
Both are addicted to fishing. My youngest son actually has a 9-pound bass on the wall that my oldest son took him fishing when he caught it. I wasn't even there. That was something they experienced together as brothers. So that's something they talk about all the time. They're so competitive. They have competitions when they go places like that. If the fish are not biting, they're always like, hey, I can get my lure closer to that stump than you can, and things like that. And then it's all about who can catch the most fish when they are biting. And I've kind of taught them, we don't keep a lot of fish when we go unless we're planning on cooking something that day or that weekend. It's all about just the enjoyment of being there and being able to take part in it.
Yeah. So they went out a lot on their own?
Oh, yeah. They go a lot of ponds. Basically just walk the banks of some creeks and a lot of little private ponds that we have permission to go to. Days that I can't make it when I'm at work, the two of them go together. A couple of the local golf courses, because my youngest one has been involved with golf so much, they have permission to fish some of the ponds on the local golf courses. So during the spring and the summer, it's nothing to come home and all the fishing rods and tackle boxes be gone, and they're sending me a message like, hey, this is where we are. If you get home in time, come join us. And so that's how our afternoons go sometimes.
Yeah, that's very cool. I guess I have something to look forward to with my kids doing maybe doing something like that.
Oh yeah, it's knowing that which my two boys, people tell me they're like, if there was such age gaps in them and then with me, they all tell me that we're three people in the same. They like and do everything that I like and do. Their personalities are so much like me. It's scary to a point sometimes.
Yeah. Did they go? Have they ever gone hunting alone? The two of them?
My oldest one has. I mean, because like I said,
together. I mean.
Yeah. They have. My oldest one has taken my youngest one on youth day before.
Okay.
When I was if I was at work and couldn't make it, he would make sure he got out on youth day. And then the last several years I had been in a club, I had permission for them to go while I was at work or something and couldn't. And he would always make sure if they had time that he would get in a stand, and they've set stands together. They've kind of videoed each other's hunts before, and different things like that. So yeah, they're always together. They're several years apart, but they're like best friends. My oldest one actually has a tattoo that says "I'm my brother's keeper," and it's it's a Browning symbol, the deer head Browning symbol on each end of it in different colors.
That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the is your daughter the oldest? Is she in the middle?
My daughter is the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's my oldest son, and then it's my youngest son. Those are the three that I have.
Gotcha. What about those camping trips? Have you taken them on that? Well, I think you mentioned that you did one.
Actually, this past year, my oldest one, opening weekend, me and my oldest one went on a 2-day camping trip with my stepdad. My youngest one was in school and in the middle of golf, so he wasn't able to go. But we spent 2 days on a little private farm that he has permission to hunt on. We set up the tent and picnic tables and little fire barrel and took the grills with us, and we spent 2 days out there, opening Friday, we went Friday afternoon. We actually bow hunted Friday afternoon. And then, of course, we got up and did a little gun hunting Saturday afternoon. So we did do, that's the first time that we've done that. Like I said, it's been probably, that was the first camping trip in 2 years that we've been able to do. And we're planning it again. We actually, this Christmas, me and my oldest one talked about maybe next year doing a hunting trip somewhere, like on a preserve or a guide service, something that we can go experience a hunting camp 3 or 4 days together, somewhere like that.
Okay. Have you found something like that?
Not yet. We haven't. We've been looking at a few, but of course I can't afford $2,000, $2,500 for 3 days. It's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
But it is something I want to experience one time, but we haven't found anything yet in the price range that I can afford.
Right. $200 instead of $2,000.
Yeah, if I could find something around, $1,000 for 3 days, nights, and all meals included, that's a possibility. But I definitely can't do $2,000. That's just out of the question. And then places that I've seen like that, they tell you only have a certain size deer you can shoot, and I'd hate to pay that kind of money and then a 200-inch deer of a lifetime walk out in front of me and they say, no, you didn't pay that much. You can't shoot that one.
Oh, yeah.
That would be kind of demoralizing to me.
Yeah. I've seen this.
We hunt for the food, but any hunter that tells you they don't want to kill a world-class whitetail, they're not being completely honest with you anyway.
Well, I did one in California, and originally it was a boar hunt, and then this guy behind me popped up on a hillside, so we went over to it was actually two, but my father-in-law was going to shoot the other one at the same time, so we had to synchronize our shots. But because it wasn't part of the original package, they just added it after the fact.
Okay.
Of course, you have to be willing to, I'm calculating in my head, this is how much they wanted when I looked at the website. Because usually they'll just be like, yeah, you want it, and then not actually give you a price tag.
Yeah.
What was the relationship that your kids had with your father?
They both kind of took it kind of hard. My dad was the type of person that you could be a stranger on the street and he would give you the shirt off his back. My dad knew no stranger. He was always kind of a bigger guy, and he was aggressive in his home. He would get angry kind of quick in his home, but outside of home or anybody, he knew no stranger. And they kind of took to that. His grandkids and his great grandkids was his life, his whole world. I had a younger sister who had some drug problems, and she's had 7 or 8 kids, and he practically raised most of them. She's got one that's 19 now that has special needs, and they have raised her since she was a baby. She was actually preemie, and they've had her ever since. And my stepmom still raises her now that my dad is gone. But anybody in the family, everybody had a relationship with my dad. My dad was the neighborhood. Everybody said he was just a big teddy bear. Anybody around, it didn't matter if it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning. If they needed something, he would be the first one to get out of his bed. And I remember many nights him calling me, son, can you come help me? We would go lay on the ground in the snow and work on somebody's car for them because they couldn't find nobody else that would do it. That's just who my dad was. And that's kind of how I've raised my kids. We do a lot around for less fortunate kids. I used to organize a breakfast with Santa to kind of help neighborhood kids who are less fortunate. Me and my wife have fed families for Thanksgiving before. And I mean, we're not well off by no means, but if I can spare $20 to help somebody else, I feel like that's God give me that $20 to be able to help somebody else with, because I've been that person that needed the help before and couldn't find it from nowhere. So that's my dad distilled that in me. my dad had a bad heart, but he had the biggest heart of anybody I've ever known. And I just me and my sons, we all try to live up to the type of person he was.
Right. Did they, have they ever shared any stories of moments they've shared with him in the outdoors?
Oh, yeah. My oldest one, when I first got him involved with hunting, when I first started getting him by himself, he was a little scared of the dark. And me and my dad would hunt several times in the week. And we would see deer, and see herds of deer, and we would let them walk, and we're like, okay, we'll bring, my son's name is Michael as well. He was the third. I'm a junior and he's the third. And I was like, we'll bring Michael back this weekend and we'll let him get his first deer. Well, season goes by and he wasn't able to harvest a deer, and I couldn't figure out why. And me and my dad got to figuring it out one time. So we dropped my son off, and I said, okay, we're going to park right here. Maybe the deer are here in the truck driveway or something. So I walked one way and he walked the other, and I cut my flashlight off, and I noticed that his went off. And my son would lay down in the edge of the woods until the sun started coming up. Then he would get up and go get in his tree stand. And him and my dad used to go at each other all the time. My dad would pick on him about being so scared of the dark he couldn't even get his first deer. And we just talked about that Christmas. Stories of my dad, they bring them up all the time, our fishing trips. My dad bought a boat just so him and my boys could go fishing on it. So we talk about anywhere from striper fishing together to the hunting stories, the camping trips. My dad was a practical joker, so he was always playing jokes on the boys and try to scare the boys. And stories, anytime we'd be around, it ain't even got to be hunting season. And anytime we get together, those stories come up. Anything that we'll look at the heads I've got on the wall, and they're like, hey, you remember that time Granddaddy did this or Granddaddy did that? And like I said, you live on through memories like that with people.
Yeah. What's you mentioned that you're a grandfather, right? Through your oldest boy?
My oldest boy, yeah, so he's called my dad, his granddaddy.
No, I mean, you have a grandson is what I'm asking.
No, I have a granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
I have a 5-year-old granddaughter. Yep.
Gotcha.
She just turned 5 in December.
Have you had any experiences with her yet in relation to, I guess, maybe fishing or camping?
We have been fishing. No camping yet. She has been out to put out corn. But as far as actually anticipating in hunting or anything like that, she hasn't done yet. Mm-hmm. That is something we want to start introducing her to this coming up season. Kind of during the summer months, not putting a gun in her hand, but having her around us when we're at a range or something, to make sure she's not uncomfortable hearing gunshots when you go hunting. I don't want her to go sit in a stand with me or ground blind with me and be terrified because I have a gun. Some people you can introduce to it all you want to, but if they're not comfortable, they're just not comfortable. It's not something I'm going to force on her because it's something that we enjoy doing.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I thought about bringing my my son. I'm going to try to do some upland hunts before season ends. And mm-hmm. I thought about having him tag along just to kind of get used to what it's like to be out there in the cold and gunshots and all that.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. Make sure they're comfortable. My youngest one, he participated on the school he goes to had a hunter safety shooting team.
Oh, yeah.
So he participated. He was the actually number 1 seed for their team for the archery. And he was number 2 on the seed for the 22. He didn't do too much with the shotgun, but the 22 range and the archery range, he was in the top stuff. So you just make sure they're comfortable around it. They're going to want to be with you anyway, but at the same time, you don't want them terrified because you have a firearm.
Right.
I teach my kids. Of course, all of mine are locked up and none of them's loaded. But at any given moment, if something happens, my kids know how to defend themselves, and they've known that from a very young age. because unfortunately the world we live into this day and time, it's not the greatest of places like it was when I was growing up. When I was growing up, I remember days we didn't even lock our doors at night. You could walk from your house to your grandparents' house no matter what time of night it was. But now, after 8 o'clock, I don't even like to go to the local grocery store, more or less walk down the road.
Yeah, I understand that. It's definitely I used to live in California, and we moved out here just because it's 10 times worse out there. I mean, not North Carolina.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I really could imagine.
Yeah, it was, and we lived in a place called Orange County, and we called it the bubble because it was almost unrealistic how clean and safe it was. There was no crime or anything. And then at some point, several years ago, the bubble burst, and we just had a lot of the crime and violence coming down to where I was raising my kids. So we felt like we needed to get out. Yeah, I mean, introducing it's definitely been on my mind lately because my oldest just turned 6, and he's been asking to go hunting with me. I just set up a mock scrape in my backyard, and I'm going to try to set up like a 2-seater tree stand for next year. Mm-hmm. And at the very least, he likes taking photos, so I thought he could go up with me and take photos of the deer.
Absolutely. When I first started getting mine involved, that's what they were doing. My oldest one even asked for a GoPro for Christmas one year where he could video and take photos and have those memories. And now you got cell phones that take better pictures than most cameras do. So they've asked for different mounts to mount on the side of their guns, or one to mount on the bow. But they both bow hunt. They both got their own bows. So anything that you can get them involved with it, man, please do, because one, it's an enjoyment of like no other, but it's a tradition that we need to keep alive and keep carried on through time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The school programs you mentioned, is that a state thing, or that just happens to be that particular school?
Well, it was I'm not sure if it was a state thing or what. It was part of FFA. The actual FFA instructor got it started. But we competed against other schools in the state. So it wasn't just our school thing. There was other schools. There's one of the schools we competed with. They actually had an on-campus range. They had everything set up on their campus. And it was a big event. I mean, you would have thought it was like state championship type events for things, because it was a huge turnout. But our school, we didn't have anything on campus. We had a local farmer whose daughter was part of it, that we went and set up a course on one of his farms where he didn't have any crops or anything yet, right at the bottom, almost at the edge of a swamp bottom. That way, everything that was, because they do everything from skeet to 22 to archery. And then there was another event where you had to take a compass and read coordinates and find your way to her. And I can't remember what that one was called. But I mean, they do all of that stuff. And it was part of FFA. Of course, you had to go through your hunter safety training. You had to have your hunter's safety certification. That was part of the program. And then it just led you into firearm handling. And then I went through and got range certified so I could monitor and participate in it on the range and stuff with the kids.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Kind of hope there's something like that near me, if not through the school that my kids go to.
I know the 4-H has the same type of program as well. Not involved with schools, but different 4-H programs have the same setup with teams and stuff or participate in things like that.
Right. Like more like Olympic style?
Yeah, more stuff like that. Yep.
Okay. Very cool. So what's the as far as your granddaughter goes, what's the introductory plan? If anyone's ever talked about how to get her more into things.
Well, like I said, we've started. She knows when we're leaving the house to go hunting. She knows what we're doing. We talk about it. If there's hunting on TV, she's gonna sit down and watch it. She knows that's a big deer, or she knows the difference between a buck and a doe. And like I said, we've got her involved with taking her out in the fields and putting out deer corn and things like that. The next thing is just getting her around as we're firing guns,
right?
To see how her reactions are, how comfortable she is around that. And then the next step is, we'll have conversations just like I did with my boys. I mean, hey, this is something I enjoy doing. Is it something you think you might like? Do you want to try to harvest a deer, or do you want to go sit with me while I'm deer hunting? And we'll go from there and play it. Let her fill it out on her own. Kids are their own individuals. I would love which I got lucky. My boys like and do everything I do. But I mean, if they didn't, I wouldn't force it on them. Of course, I want to try to introduce it to them and get them to be part of it. But if they don't enjoy it, they just don't enjoy it. They're own individuals. So that's the game plan. And if it plays out, that's great. I know how I was as a dad. I wouldn't want to take that first experience away from my son to be able to do it with her first. But of course, as soon as he's had the first chance to have that experience, I'd like to be the second one that she gets to go out with the experience. Yeah, and if we could do it together, the three of us, that would be really awesome.
Right. That makes sense. I've had the same thought with, I've had different people in my life that would be like uncles to my kids or my own dad. Where I think to myself, would I be okay if like their first gun came from someone else or something like that? Or is it important for me to go through that experience? Mm-hmm. I don't know that I've really answered that question, because I think it's one of those I won't really know unless it happens. But yeah, probably best to try to take that first step myself.
Well, I definitely was the one that give both of mine there first. Actually, my oldest one is in his 30s. Well, he just turned 30, and I just give him another one for Christmas this year, and it's the only one that I've ever given him that I didn't take a deal with first.
So, between yourself and your sons, and probably not your granddaughter, but does anybody have kind of like a bucket list hunt, or maybe a fishing trip that they really want to do?
Well, I know me and my son, like I said, me and my oldest one have been talking. We want to experience a hunt camp together somewhere, but of course our bucket list as far as hunting, we both, of course, we'd like to either do a Texas trip, or we've both talked about going to Saskatchewan. He's more into, well, I said not he, my youngest son, his bucket list involves more exotic type of animals.
Sure.
But I'm just a diehard whitetail person. My dream is to harvest a 20-inch plus whitetail. That's just something to me growing up. That was the magic number you heard everybody talk about: 20 inches, 20 inches, 20 inches. So that now, of course, now that my daughter lives in Colorado, and I've been out there with her in the parks and stuff and seen all these elk and moose and big mule deer, I wouldn't turn the opportunity down. But if I had to choose between a world-class whitetail hunt and an exotic hunt, my choice would be whitetail. I think my oldest son, in the talks that we've had, he's the same way. Fishing, I've only heard my oldest one talk about he'd love to experience Lake Okeechobee one time. Mm-hmm. That's kind of his bucket list on a fishing trip. My youngest one, he don't really care where he fishes as long as he gets to go. He'll fish. Yeah. He'll fish in a creek in the backyard if he thought he had an opportunity of catching something in it.
I can understand that. So if you ended up getting your 20-inch, would you then be interested as far as like a next step to go after like a mule deer, or is it your mind's probably going to stay with whitetail?
No, I mean, if like anything, my whole life, I grew up wanting to play professional football. So my life's been based around setting goals for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, if I was to reach that 20-inch whitetail mark, I would set another goal of, it definitely would turn my focus out to something different then. Like I said, my daughter, one of the company that she works for, she can look out her window and it ain't nothing to see 10, 12 mule deer just laying right there beside the building that she works in. So she's gradually, I'm getting addicted to a big mule deer, but yeah, I'd have to want to accomplish that whitetail. Now, if that opportunity to come up as a free hunt, sure, I wouldn't turn the free mule deer hunt down. Like I said, we are working on being able to draw a tag and go hunt over there as a non-resident. But if it was something that I had to pay for, I'd have to accomplish that whitetail dream of mine first. And I hope it was something I don't have to experience alone. I would love to have one of my boys or my wife to be part of it with me.
Did your wife hunt too?
If my dad was here, it would definitely be him. But I wanted to share that experience with somebody else now.
Yeah.
What was that you asked?
Does your wife hunt too?
Yeah, she does. Not as much as I do. She kind of got involved with it just as a way for us to spend more time together. Mm-hmm. She actually harvested her first one last year. She was able to get 2 doe last year. And so now our goal for her is try to get her something with horns in front of her. Her work schedule, she had just switched jobs right at the start of this season. So her work schedule, she wasn't able to get out as many times. And I wasn't no longer part of the hunting club that I've been in the last several years. So it went back to just kind of hunting by invite. And the days that I got the invites or the opportunity to go somewhere, she wasn't available every time.
Yeah.
So the goal didn't get reached this year, but that's why I told her, that's why it's called hunting, that we'll get it. It's just, we're working on, me and my son are working on trying to find our own private lease or maybe another club that the two of us can join together so we can get back into the more family type of thing.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely, I can understand the, having to balance, I guess, life and being able to go out.
Definitely.
Yeah. In 23, my youngest was born right at the beginning of season. So that cut away a bunch of time. And then this last year I had, the spot itself, we discovered there was some trespassers on the private property right in the corridor where the deer used to go through. And there was tons of does the year before. So I was surprised that I wasn't seeing anything. But that kind of killed it. I think it chased a lot of them off. But I did have my brother-in-law had us come out for Thanksgiving. So that was a chunk of time that took away from season as well. So and I've had the same problem with turkey season. I actually haven't had a chance to hunt in North Carolina for turkey yet because there's always something going on and it's such a small window.
It's a short season. And in my opinion, the turkey season in North Carolina, it's at the wrong time of year. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's nothing like the last week of hunting season. It wasn't nothing for me to sit in the stand or in the woods and see 40 or 50 turkeys. I still got a trail camera out right now that just sent me pictures this afternoon. I had about 43 in the field where my camera's at.
Oh, okay.
So there's turkeys everywhere. And that's something as a kid that when I was a kid in North Carolina, turkey hunting was something you thought you were going to have to take a hunting trip on to do. There was no turkeys in North Carolina back in that time. Same as coyote hunting. That was something that you never thought you would see in the state of North Carolina. But now they're everywhere. It's nothing to see a flock of 50 birds in any field you go by in the counties that I live in. And there's nothing to be sitting dusk to dark and hear a whole pack of coyotes. I can walk out my back door right now and hit a siren, and I have a pack of coyotes within a couple hundred yards of my house start going off. they're everywhere this day and time too.
Yeah. What county are you in?
I'm in Edgecombe County.
Okay.
I hunt a lot between Northampton County and here in Edgecombe County.
Okay. That's still on the more eastern side, right?
Yes, and I live in the eastern part of the state. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm about 2 hours from the Outer Banks.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense since you spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
So do you spend a lot of, I guess not when you were younger, but do you spend more time these days turkey hunting?
Not as much. The jobs that I've always had, that was more the busy time of year. Mm-hmm. I've always been, the last, 20 plus years, I've kind of drove trucks and delivered stuff, been a delivery driver for like building materials. I delivered some propane and stuff for a while. So turkey, that's why I say it's the wrong time of year, because I don't have as much time to do it. Now, every opportunity I get, I jump at it. But if it's twice a year in that season that we have, I'm lucky. There has been some years I never even made it out, but it's definitely something I want to do. I don't know if either one of my boys have ever turkey hunted. If they did, that's something that they didn't experience with me, because it's just not something we've always had the opportunity to do.
Mm-hmm. You ever see them close to home?
Excuse me now?
Do you ever see turkey close to home?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I can, between here and where I work, sometimes it ain't nothing to see. Like I said, I can see a flock of 30, 40 birds anytime. There's one field, the road I live off of is called Fishing Creek Road. It's a creek that runs down about 1.5 miles from the house. And there's 2 fields, one on both sides of the creek. Any afternoon, here it seems the worse the weather, the more the birds like it. I don't know if they feel more comfortable or safe in the field, but any afternoon, the wind's blowing or there's a drizzling rain, you can ride down and there's normally birds in both fields.
That's fun. I've only seen a handful on like street corners going between farms and stuff around here. But I did have that property that I was hunting. I did have a flock just circle me for about 30 minutes while I was deer hunting.
One of the last, might have been my last morning that I was able to hunt this year. It was a peanut field during the season, and they've got the cover crop is wheat planted in it now. I was sitting there at daybreak that morning and had 5 different flocks come out into the same field, come off roost. And when I say 5 different flocks, I mean they come from 5 different spots in the wood line in the fields, come off roost in different corners of the field. And they would look across the field and see each other, and then they would just all take off running. And I bet it was 50-some birds at one time after they all got together. When we get through, I've got a picture. Like I said, the picture I was telling you on my trail cam, that was just, one of them was today. I just got it today. It sent me. I'll send you the picture of the birds that I've got, how big a flock it is on that one little field that I've been hunting on.
Yeah. I've heard some stories. There was one podcast I was listening to where a guy was saying, somewhere on the East Coast, I don't remember the exact state, but it was on the spring hunt. There was such an abundance. It was like way too easy just to take some. Mm-hmm. So what he started doing is he would chase them into the forest and then go back and call them in because it was just way too easy.
If you find them, they are that easy. There's a lot of, where I'm born and raised, I don't know if you ever heard it. It's called the rockfish capital of the world. Really, really well-renowned striper fishing. Mm-hmm. Of course, we don't have a season no more. The last 2 years, they've cut the season slam out. So 2 of the different counties right around the area have complained. It says it cost them over $1 million in revenue just by cutting out the season, where people were coming, staying in the motels and eating in the restaurants to striper fish.
Yeah.
But when the season was open, a lot of the local people would do what's called a cast and blast, because striper season and turkey season was right there together. Mm-hmm. So you go do a morning turkey hunt, and then you take you and do a half a day striper fishing. I knew a guy make their whole year salary just in the little bit of time of striper season and turkey season. People would pay that much money to do things that way. But like you said, it's nothing in this area, this day and time. If you got the right wooded area, there's birds everywhere. I mean, and like I said, when I was growing up, a turkey is something that I never thought I would get the opportunity to see.
Yeah.
But now, I bet if I was to leave my house at daybreak in the morning, I could make it 5 miles down the road. I'll see at least 2 or 3 birds, if not more. And then the nastier the weather, the more they like it.
That's interesting. I think there's similar birds that do the same thing, like vultures and things like that.
Well, like I said, I've never been a big turkey hunter, so I've talked to people. The club that I used to be in, it was some guys that were in it just to turkey hunt.
Yeah.
And they would tell me that they just felt safer when the wind's blowing, the rain, they just feel safer and more comfortable to be out. And so that's why I said, the nastier the weather, the more likely you are to see a flock of birds somewhere.
Yeah. They're pretty intelligent, so it wouldn't surprise me if maybe they've put it together. The predators don't like to be out in that kind of weather.
Yep. That's what somebody told me. Their eyesight, I've had deer walk under my tree stand and never even know I'm there, but I've had a turkey 100 yards from me and catch me trying to raise up my binoculars and be gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely the difference of between the two. I think the deer are more keen on smell and hearing, and turkey have to have the eyesight.
Yep.
Do you know if there's like there's certain crops you could plant to attract deer? Or do you know if there's anything like that for turkey?
Well, I know you can't bait turkey, but I know that they love our corn piles. See, where I'm from, we can bait deer and you can hunt over the bait, but you can't bait turkey. So
yeah.
If anywhere you've ever baited for deer, and I know turkey season is a while after deer season, but you have to make sure there's no remnants of the bait still there when you start turkey hunting, because it's a federal offense.
Sure. Does planting something count as baiting though?
Well, I mean, if you have food plots, that's different.
Right.
You know, that's a year-round food plot. You're not doing it just throwing a pile of bait on the ground. But that's what I said. I know they love corn piles, so I would imagine that they would love corn fields. But again, it's from somebody who's never been that big of a turkey hunting. That's something I would have to research myself to kind of. I know they like pines. Anywhere there's a pine thicket normally holds a lot of birds because they're insect eaters.
Oh yeah.
They'll forage under the pine straw and stuff like that to eat the insects. So you're more likely to find them on old pine thickets and any tract of land that's planted pines. You know, the paper mills own property where they're pine farms. Any piece of land like that is loaded with turkeys.
That's interesting. I have read that like if you took a bunch of branches and they kind of webbed each other to almost create like a briar patch where they can roost underneath, and it let like leaves and stuff cover it, so it almost becomes like a little foliage cave of sorts. So I wonder if there's something about maybe just how thick it gets with the pine. Yeah,
well, like I say, they love to they do their foraging under the pine straw. You walk through a pine thicket in this area, and you would think it's deer rubs, because turkeys, you wouldn't think they could do it, but they'll rub pine straw all the way down to the pure dirt, just trying to find the insects and the bugs that they eat on. The more birds, the more you're going to see it around. The little farm that I tell you I got the picture, one side of the field is hardwood swamp bottom. The other side of the field, it's a pine thicket. And we can walk through there sometimes, and you can walk through there and not even hardly step on a piece of pine straw where they've scraped it up in piles so much. They'll start at the base of the tree and work their way all the way around the tree in a 3 or 4 foot circle. And then you'll see where they start moving to another area. It's like you can walk from tree to tree in a path that they've made by scraping all the pine straw out of it.
Yeah. I'm surprised I haven't seen any turkey in my yard yet because I got a lot of pine trees.
I imagine the possibility is there.
Yeah. So going back into, you mentioned that you and your wife like to help families with just meals or finances. What was it that brought that about?
Well, when I say I was blessed to be raised by 2 dads, at a very young age, my mom and my stepdad had a drug problem. So the younger part of my childhood was kind of rough. And then when me and my dad's relationship grew really strong, him being such a kind and giving person, I grew in my belief that, one, kids don't deserve to suffer the struggles their parents do. And 2, not everybody that struggles is a bad person. Just because somebody can't pay their bills doesn't mean they have a drug problem. They could just be down on their luck at any time. So, like I said, even though there's times like there's bills I'm behind on right now, but I just helped my niece buy Christmas for her 2 kids because their dad isn't in the picture and she doesn't have a job. My son actually helped me, and the 2 of us were able to put together, it wasn't a lot, but it meant a lot to them 2 kids because they were able to, to wake up Christmas morning and have some Christmas. Mm-hmm. When I was in the hunting club, I took it to the board, the idea I had of doing the breakfast with Santa. I did it the whole 4 years I was in the club. Everything was complete donations from members. Me and my wife handled all the organizing of it. We did all the shopping. We did all the wrapping. We served pancakes and sausage. I had a guy that he runs a local organization for kids. His whole life is based on being Santa. He's even Santa in July. That's just what he does. He did our Santa for us. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a generic type of thing. So I had everybody reach out to me through Facebook, and they had to sign their kid up. So they would give me their kid's name, whether it was a boy or a girl, and a couple of things that they liked that they've heard them ask for. That way, come the day of the breakfast, when the little kid walked up to Santa, it wasn't, "Hey, little boy, let me give you this football." And this little boy could be careless about a football. Mm-hmm. So it was always, "Hey, Tom, how are you? I heard you've been a good kid. I think I've got something you really asked for." And then Tom opened it and it'd be a fishing rod. And I use that as an example because the first year we did it, we had a 12-year-old that thought he was too old for Christmas. He didn't want to sit in Santa's lap, which I told him that's fine. Santa still has something for you. And I've got a picture of this little boy opening up a fishing rod with his mouth wide open and tears about to roll out his eyes because it was something that he had been asking his mom for. And unfortunately, she just wasn't in a position to do that for him. Mm-hmm. So he got a fishing rod with a little small tackle box and some baits in it.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So then that led into doing an Easter egg hunt for the local kids. And then we did a truck or treat where 10 to 15 of us from the hunting club would line our trucks up on our property, and everybody would decorate and pass out candy. And it was all free to the community. We didn't charge anybody anything. It was all done by members, and it was just for the kids. And then on my own, I have posted before that I wanted to feed a family for Thanksgiving, did anybody that knew anybody, please, send me their information. And one year we did it. It was a young lady and her husband and their 2 kids. She was on dialysis and had lost her job, and he was having to miss a lot of time to make sure she was getting back and forth to her dialysis appointments. So we prepared a whole full course Thanksgiving dinner, even with dessert, and delivered it to their door and had it set up where all they had to do was open it and serve the food. So that's something me and my wife have took pride in being able to do. I can't do it every year like I'd like to, but years when we're at a point where I have enough to share like that, we try to make sure we help somebody.
Right. Do you think that you getting into doing that is influenced by God?
Absolutely. It's like I said, God blesses me with the opportunity and the means. My wife and I have even talked into trying to start our own nonprofit organization to try to be able to do something like this on a daily basis. I've always been involved with different sports, and I've been in different fundraisers for local community people in need. I've organized softball tournaments for people with medical expenses. So my wife and I have talked about trying to start to researching how to get a nonprofit organization started to start being able to reach out and help people. We've thought about doing something about getting kids introduced in the outdoors. Unfortunately, before I separated from the hunting club, that was the next program that I was trying to get started, is to being able to everybody to reach out to kids with single mothers who know nothing about hunting, but the kid wants to get involved to try to do more kids on a youth day hunt. Because here in North Carolina, you have a youth day, 1 day youth day that's well before season starts. And that was a program I was trying to work on and get it instigated there, but things just didn't work out. But it's still something on my mind that I'd like to do one day. It's just something that's going to take me time.
Yeah. If you have any resources to identify, I think they're called Gold Star and Blue Star kids, the sons of fallen veterans.
Right.
There's a gentleman that his podcast episode actually just released, but he runs a nonprofit called Guiding Eyes, and that's one of the things he's looking to figure out how to find more of those kids that they can involve, because they already deal with people with disabilities, blind people, veterans, first responders. And that's the only one, because that information he was saying is so guarded that he can't just get a list of these people, so that they're unaware that he has something to provide them. So that if that's ever something that you have information, that would be a direction for them.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've been looking into. I have a first cousin, her husband, he's part of one of the wounded veteran hunts. It's actually the largest wounded veteran hunt in the state of North Carolina. They do it out in Chatham County. So I've kind of started trying to coordinate my days off from work on the week that they do that big hunt, so I can try to go out and get involved with that more with them. But they've had as much as, I think he said, as much as 50 hunters one time. Some with major disabilities that they have to make special arrangements just to get them to stands or contraptions to be able to get them to be able to pull the trigger and things like that.
Yeah.
So anything that I can get involved to help someone out, that's just, to me, that's who I am as a person because of my dad. But it meant so much to him. It's what I want to do to continue what he has done.
Yeah. It sounds like he created a good legacy.
I hope I can just make him proud for what little bit I can do from going forward.
Absolutely. Well, that's about it for my questions. Do you have anything that you were hoping to talk about?
No, you pretty much covered all the topics as far as, I'm a firm believer of getting kids involved in the outdoors, man. Taking the opportunity to teach them where the outdoors come from. Like I said, in my eyes, God is the creator. Um, my boys say their prayers just like I do. And like I told you, I feel more connected when I'm saying those prayers and hunting now to my dad. And I actually harvest my biggest deer to date this year. And in that prayer, I actually said to, Dad, if you're listening, bring one out for me. And, people say what they want to, but it won't. 20 minutes later, he come out chasing a doe. And I was able to harvest him. He's my personal best to date. I'm waiting any day now for the taxidermist to call me so I can go pick him up.
Still having that connection, it's very important. Every time I go fishing, I think of my grandfather on my dad's side because he's the one that taught me how to fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my stepdad's dad, he really got me involved with fishing. So him and my stepdad and my mom got married on my 5th birthday. And I was the first grandchild for his parents. And he was adopted. But his dad, like, I was the most amazing thing in the world to him. This man would drive 20 miles a day to either bring me a bag of candy or a $5 bill every day. There wasn't a day from the time that I met him to the time he passed away that I didn't see him, if it won't but 10 minutes at a time. And then when he got permission from my mom to be able to start taking me fishing, I will never forget, he had a 2-piece wooden boat that he could load in the trunk of his car. Of course, now he had old Lincoln, big long Lincoln, but we'd take the boat to little farm ponds, and he put that thing together, and we'd paddle around that pond all day long. And then the old fella, we get done fishing, it was like he couldn't hardly move, but he'd have a grin on his face from ear to ear, and the grin I had from it was even bigger. It was that was who really, that means more to me about fishing, being with somebody. I'm not the type of person to go off by myself and go fishing.
Right.
I'll stay at home all day long. But if I have the opportunity to go walk a bank with someone, and it could be a stranger, it's a good way to meet somebody, to get to know somebody. But one of my boys, or my granddaughter, she's talked about fishing. So that's coming up in the near future as well. That's just what it's about to me, being in the outdoors, whether it be hunting, fishing. I'm actually going out tomorrow and relocate a stand and pick up ground blind and cameras. And I'm going to meet my stepdad to do all of that with him tomorrow. So to me, it's just about being in the outdoors, even if it's on a golf course. That's how my little one got introduced to golf, because if we couldn't hunt and fish, we wanted to be outdoors, so we started golfing.
Yeah, I agree. Golfing's a great way to do it. There's actually that same nonprofit I mentioned. They're doing a charity golf tournament at the end of April, I think it is. If you and your son are in it, would be interested.
Where is it going to be at?
I think it's in Durham.
Okay. I will definitely check into it.
Yeah, I'll send you a link when we're done talking. But this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
I appreciate you reaching out to me. I really do.
Yeah.
Everybody you come in contact to, just remember to tell them to keep Christ in the outdoors.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate it, bud. You have a good night.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. And if you want to join the adventure, you can pick yourself up a nice hat or a camping coffee mug and brew yourself some coffee right above a nice little fire at greatoutdoorspodcast.com. Oh, kind of grainy.